Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maya. If you've never been here before, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in June and July. I was away for most of July, so I thought I would just lump these two review videos together, also because I didn't read that many books. So let's get started. So I was gonna go in order of like books I liked, books I didn't like very much, but I'm just gonna go in month order because it's too hard to remember every book that I need to talk about if I don't. So for the month of June, we played the Drag Queens Choose My TBR game. You can see the results of that in the August video, but it didn't do too well. So the first book that we had was a book chosen by a friend, which was Latrice Royale's prompt, and my friend Isabella chose Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and I DNF'd this book. I was about, I don't know, I would say 70% of the way through when I DNF'd this. I had such high hopes for this book and it just completely failed me. I did enjoy the character of Delilah. I suppose I should say what it's about in case you don't know. Basically, this book is about Delilah Green, who is a photographer in New York who's been away from her tiny hometown for a long time because she had very bad memories there. And then her stepsister is getting married and she goes back to the town to film or photograph her stepsister's wedding, where she reconnects with the people who were not very nice to her when she was a kid. And everything just felt too contrived for me. I didn't enjoy any of the characters really except Delilah. I didn't really care for the plot much at all, and I was starting to get the impression that Delilah was going to give up her career that she'd worked really hard for this random girl back home, and so I stopped reading before that happened. And according to my friends who also read this book for book club and my mother, that's not really the case, but I didn't even want to risk it, so I stopped reading it. I may one day finish this, especially when the sequel comes out, because both the sequel and the third one, a long ways away, sound very good, so I might have to eventually finish it, but overall, not enjoyable. The next book that was on the list was a book, giving a book a second chance, which was Shangelas Card, and for this one, I picked The Night and Its Moon, and I didn't even get remotely close to that. Next was read a book from a new author, and for this one, I picked Tripping Arcadia by Kit Mayquist, and I did read this book, and I loved it, and I gave it 4 stars. Very compelling, very gothic. The premise of this book is that the main character, Lena, drops out of med school, and she had spent the summer working with her aunt on like botany and all of these plants in Italy, but then her parents' financial situation gets bad, so she's forced to come back home and work in order to help them, and she gets a job working for the richest family in Boston, and they have a lot of mysteries and a lot of things. There's an illness that's very mysterious. There's typical celebrity mystery, and a lot about plants. And it was really interesting to me, the whole inclusion of plants and plant medicine was really fascinating to me. I loved all of the characters, especially the family that she works for, the daughter. But I kind of feel like I was dragged around a little bit about the queer romance in this book because it was very, very, very small. Like, there was some discussion of it, but it was definitely a gothic horror mystery with a bit of romance, not a romance gothic horror. But I still really enjoyed it. I really liked the author's writing style, and yeah, I saw a little bit of the ending coming, but not all of it. So I really liked it and would highly recommend, and the cover is just stunning. Next was read the shortest book on your TBR, and for this one I chose Meaty by Samantha Irby, and this book was probably the biggest disappointment of probably the entire year because I was literally so close to giving it 5 stars, and in the end I DNF'd it. The first half was beautifully written. It's a memoir. Well, not, does a memoir mean that you're dead? I don't think so. Anyway, it's just a bunch of essays about her life, and the first ones were really great. They were about like childhood trauma and growing up in New York and going to these different like school programs, all about her life. And then all of a sudden it turned into like the most disgusting conversations of sex and like bowel movements and bodily functions, and I just couldn't do it. I thought I was gonna throw up while I was listening to it. So in the end, like literally 80% left, I had to DNF the audiobook because I just couldn't listen to it anymore. So that was really disappointing for me because I thought it was going to be one of my top reads of the year, and I ended up not even being able to finish it. So I definitely do not recommend, especially if you're listening to it in public. Just don't do that. And the last 2 books that were on the TBR were I Kissed Cheryl Wheeler for continue a series, which I justified as continuing the series of Casey McQuiston books, and Last Night at the Telegraph Club, which was a book from someone else's TBR, and neither of these have been DNF'd. I just kind of got fed up and stopped reading them, but I do want to finish them one day. So I barely read any of either of these, so I can't really tell you my thoughts on them so far. But I Kissed Cheryl Wheeler is Casey McQuiston's YA release from April, I would say. It's about a girl who is about to graduate high school, and Cheryl Wheeler is her only competition for valedictorian, and then one night Cheryl Wheeler kisses her and then completely disappears, and she needs to team up with Shara's boyfriend and this other boy and herself to try and figure out where she could have gone. Again, I didn't read very much, but I liked what I read so far. And then Last Night at the Telegraph Club is about these 2 girls falling in love in the McCarthy era period of the United States, and it's very forbidden, and everyone is worried that her father is going to get deported. So again, I really liked the writing style so far, but both of these just kind of lost my attention, and then I went on holiday, so I didn't finish either of them, but I would like to. So the only other book that I fully read in the month of June was Everything for You by Chloe Leese. This is the 5th book in the Bergman Brothers series, but this is the first one that I read. So it didn't seem necessary to have read the first 4, but I did kind of have a problem with the series as a whole because the family just got on my nerves. Essentially the premise of this is Oliver is a soccer star. He plays for Los Angeles's pro football team, or soccer team, and then his rival, Gavin, who's like very grumpy, not his rival, his teammate is this guy that he's had a crush on for years because he's this like very famous soccer star from Europe who then came to LA, but he's very grumpy and he doesn't like anyone. And then through a bunch of different like meet cute situations, they end up kind of getting together. And I didn't really like the book at first. It was very frustratingly written, but then as soon as the 2 characters kind of started to like get that slow burn romance going, I was on board. But what was really frustrating for me was that every time that anything happened where the family was involved, we had to know everything that the family was doing. So even if they weren't really involved in the plot, they were like, and this brother came from here to go to this, and this brother came from here to go to this, and this sister, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I don't care. I'll read about them in their own books. The other thing I didn't like was it was a very overwritten and over-justified story. Every time a character did something, it needed to be backed up by like 5 decisions, and I just didn't care. It's a romance. I'm willing to give characters the benefit of the doubt. But it was a cute romance, and I did enjoy like the soccer setting, and there were lots of musical references. So overall, 3.5 stars was fine. I might pick up some of the other ones in the series at some point. For July, I decided to play Ruby's Tic Tac TBR game, so I'll leave the prompt thing here, but I managed to cross off 4 of the prompts. I didn't manage to get a bingo or anything, but that's fine because I wasn't playing for rewards. So the first book the first 2 books I read this month were Throttled and Collided from the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher, and this is an F1 romance series, and I read both of these while I was on vacation, and they were great for that. Like, they were very easy reads, cute romance, spicy, and I love F1, as you can tell from the shirt that I'm wearing today, so I really enjoyed the books. I enjoyed the first one more, if only because the 2 characters were more compelling. The first book follows Liam, who is like the American prince of F1. His father was a driver, and now he's following in his footsteps. And then the love interest is the sister of his new teammate, who used to be his rival. And they are less hostile, I feel like, than the second pairing, so I quite enjoyed it. And I really like the forbidden romance and enemies to lovers kind of tropes more, so that was good. Collided, I didn't like the driver as much. He is in big trouble because he slept with the niece of the guy who owns the team he drives for, and it ended badly, and so he's trying to stay out of trouble, but then the daughter of the rival team principal from one of the other teams comes into his life, and then they kind of have this like will they won't they thing, but he was just too stubborn and annoying for me. I really liked the female love interest, but he bothered me. So I gave that one 3.25 stars and the first one 3.75. But the second one did set up the third book quite well, which I'll be reading this month, so I still enjoyed it, but not as good as the first. Then I read Aphrodite Made Me Do It for book club that I'm in, and this is actually the absolutely stunning physical edition. I read mine on my Kindle. Then when I went to book club and saw everyone had this beautiful physical version, I needed to get it. This book was beautiful. It is a poetry kind of collection, and essentially the poet uses Aphrodite as kind of a plot device, I would say, but she also writes as Aphrodite at some point, so Aphrodite kind of has her piece, and then the poet kind of muses about her own life in a similar way for each section. And on my Kindle, I have so many quotes from this book bookmarked. I feel like this is one of those books that when you read it at the right time, everything just kind of hits, and that is exactly how I felt. But also the art is just beautiful. This was one that I saved. Let me try and find it. I need to go through and annotate this one for sure, but okay, I don't know where this is, but just beautiful. Oh, here. Beautiful artwork, beautiful prose. Yeah, the only thing I didn't love was sometimes it felt like a little white feminism, self-carry. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like, oh, if you're feeling bad, just like do something creative or go for a walk, when in reality that's like not the only important ways to deal with a problem. So that bothered me a little bit, but I really enjoyed it, and I will definitely reread it to annotate it in here, and also read the sequel that comes out in September, which is Artemis Made Me Do It, I think. And the last book that I read for the month of July was 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and this book was probably the best that I read over the last 2 months, so we're ending it off on a high note. This book is about an adult erotica author, Eva, who had a fling, I guess you could say, when she was in high school for 7 days with this guy named Shane. Then he comes back into the picture, and they have 7 days again in June in Brooklyn as adults now, and it's all about like second chance romance and love and who is worthy of love and who isn't, and whether you can leave the past behind and things like that. It was absolutely stunning book to read, and I loved how the author wrote. I feel this way with this book and the one I'm currently reading right now, but there's something about authors who just kind of like bend the rules of writing to just be more lyrical and more magical, and I absolutely loved how she wrote in this book. I tabbed a bunch of lines and phrases. I loved the characters. I really wanted them to be happy and to succeed and get what they wanted, and I actually, with the exception of the epilogue being kind of a disaster to me, really enjoyed how she ended it. And yeah, I just really loved this book. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. Beautiful, love it, great summer read. So that is everything that I read in, oh, I didn't even say what prompts these ones were for. Oh, my camera's about to overheat, so I'll go quickly. So I read Throttled and Collided. Throttled for a one-word title and Collided for blue cover. New to TBR was Aphrodite Made Me Do It, and Black Author was 7 Days in June. So there we go. I had a much more successful reading month in July, and hopefully a more successful one coming in August. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you've read any of these books down below, and if you enjoyed them, your thoughts. If I should finish I Kissed Cheryl Wheeler and Last Night at the Telegraph Club, let me know. And I'll see you guys next week for another travel vlog. Bye!